G'day everyone, welcome back to another edition of Guvs Hero Review videos. Today we are going to be checking out another Hero of the Month. Specifically, this is the review video for the 5-star legendary purple hero, Frostbite, the Subzero Scientist. Now, Frostbite is the featured hero of the month for August 2024. During this time, he is available as a bonus draw of any hero summon that you perform during this month. After the conclusion of August 24, Frostbite will only be available via the Manor of Legends portal, starting in 9 months' time, so in March 2025 or thereabouts. It's 9 months after his release that heroes get added to that portal. The portal odds themselves, so when he's the hero of the month, we can see that there is that bonus draw right there on the bottom, giving us a 1% chance for that bonus draw. This is on any of the hero summons that is in the portal, so across the entire month, that bonus draw works out. If you were to do 100 summons in this or any portal, there is a 63.4% probability that you would gain the hero of the month from those 100 summons. When he gets down into the Manor of Legends, the odds do drop off quite substantially. So it goes from being a 1% chance draw for him specifically, to there being a 1.6% chance across that entire portal to gain any past hero of the month. So that's split up as a 1% chance for a featured hero of the month and a 0.6% chance for an unfeatured hero of the month. Now, things do get quite terrible when we start looking at the odds on those heroes. So for a little bit of perspective, again, if you were to do 100 summons across that portal, you would have an 80% probability of gaining any hero of the month, right? That's out of that 1.6% chance. If you're going for a featured hero of the month, there's just a 63.4% probability that you'd gain a featured hero of the month, but a 39.4% probability that you would gain the specific featured hero of the month you're after. On the unfeatured side of things, that 0.6% chance, across the 100 summons, you would have a 45.2% probability of gaining a hero of the month that is unfeatured. And for a specific unfeatured hero of the month, the odds drop down to below 2% across those 100 summons to get the specific unfeatured hero that you're after. And those odds are dropping off further and further as more heroes get added to that portal. So by the time Frostbite is finally added, there will be 45 unfeatured heroes. There's 39 at the current time, so there'd be 45 by the time Frostbite is finally added to that portal. And again, those numbers are only going to drop off further and further over time. So enough of the, I guess, dismal numbers and mathiness. Let's jump across and we can take a quick look at his artwork. So I was a bit fortunate and I jagged a couple copies of Frostbite. So we can see here, this is his artwork. So, it's the first time we've sort of seen this crossover of the elements going between, like, to different elements to what they typically are. So typically ice is associated with that blue elemental color. So this is, I think, I could be very wrong in this, but just from my memory, it's the first time we're seeing ice on a different element other than blue. So we've obviously got the frosty gun there in the left hand that he's got. It's kind of like frozen the gun and then like up his arm kind of thing, and it's like, I don't know, is it blowback from the gun? I don't know, a little bit weird. But anyway, he's probably got something a bit worse than Frostbite going on that left hand, but hey, he's the Subzero Scientist, so that is his artwork, so feel free to pause it and review if you wish. So I heard someone call him the Elton John hero or something like that, so I guess I can see some of those similarities in some of the face there. But yeah, that's his artwork. So let's jump back across and we can continue reviewing his card. So normally I would now discuss the family bonus on these heroes, but being a previous or a current hero of the month, there isn't actually a family bonus. Maybe we'll get one down the track, but at the moment we don't have one. His personal stats, though, he comes in with 764 attack, 759 defense, and 457 HP. So we do see that his attack and defense stats are quite, or a little bit elevated compared to what we would normally expect for someone of his power. So most of that has come from the HP. The HP is lowered, and the defense and attack stats are increased. It is worth noting as well, his power is quite high. It's the highest of the Hero of the Month, very much higher than some of the old ones like Jocasta and that. But it's still a little bit shy of some of the most modern heroes in the event portal. So we've got Topaz at 742 as currently the highest powered hero, but Frostbite is a little bit higher than the previous Hero of the Month, which was Crypt at 734. So all power is just a representation of their base stats. So more power means more base stats to distribute amongst the attack, defense, and HP stats. So yeah. Moving on from that, his charge speed is set to 49, which is average speed, and requires 11 tiles to charge, or 6 full ghosted tiles. The speed break happens at speed 50, super easy to get. It's a +1 improvement. You can do that using any of the purple speed weapons. You've got either the Pearl-Scale Convex giving you +6, or the Explosion B90, which gives you +9. There's even, you can do it using the 4% charge generation node, which comes at +20 on his class tree. A long way down his tree, but engineering is a little bit short of great heroes, so probably would get a +20, let's be real. The double speed break happens at speed 58, so it's a +9 speed improvement. So again, very doable using the Explosion B90, because that just gives you straight up a +9 speed improvement. Alternatively, if you do grab the 4% charge generation node that happens at +20, it is actually enough to get the double break with the Pearl Scale Convex, even though it's only giving you a +6 improvement. The 4% around that 50-58 bracket is very much, it's quite a large bracket. I think it's 3 or 4 break tiles that the 4% can give you. So yeah, you can get it using either of the speed guns. So yeah, the class node is probably quite relevant to a lot of players if you've got a +6, 7, or 8 speed gun, or if you just want to get the single break and use like a dodge gun on him for a defense team or something like that, then the speed node is also very relevant in that situation as well. Class-wise, I sort of mentioned it before, he is a member of the Engineer class, which grants him the chance to summon a turret minion after receiving damage from any source. The turret minion itself comes in with 15% HP and 18% attack, which is inherited from his base stats. I do generally like, or kind of like, this talent. The turret minion itself, it's pretty beefy. You can trigger it any number of ways. It's just, if Frostbite gets damaged, then you can create the turret minion. So very, very easy to proc. The big downside is that it only creates a minion for himself, and it only creates 1 minion at most per turn. So you can't have 15 minion strikes on him and get like 10 minions. No, you only get 1 minion per turn, regardless of how many instances of damage you take. By way of an actual emblem path, you really could make a very strong argument to emblem him in either direction. So I'm going to use Michelle because I'm quite short on leveled engineer class heroes. So forget that this is Michelle, this is now Frostbite. So you can go either way. You can either go the attack path to give him added damage output, or you can go the defensive path, which is going to give him additional survival. I personally would probably go the defensive route to give him additional survival, because I see him very much being a charge controlling hero with damage rather than the other way around. So because of that, I would emblem him personally to focus on that defense and HP to give him some added survival. HP would be the preference over the defense, and the main reason for that is because of that turret minion. So more HP equals a more beefy minion. So what this works out to be, so this is the HP/defense path, is we are going to follow as a preference the direction that's got HP nodes. If not, then we'll go the side that's got defense and HP. Here, this healing node is borderline useless, so I'm actually going to advocate going the other way, because then you get 2 useful perks rather than 1 useful one and 1 dead one. So then we'll go back to just following the HP path, with defense as our secondary preference. Now, I would actually advocate getting the +19 and the +20 nodes on Frostbite here. The main reason that I'm going to say 19 and 20 is because doing the 20 node will allow you to speed break him with a dodge gun, which is very powerful, but also because engineering as a whole is quite pressed for great heroes. It's got a lot of okay ones, but not many that I would say are really out and out great. Probably the best one at the moment is Dr. Scorpion, so that's probably saying a lot about how sparse the engineer class is. So I would say that Frostbite is very much worthy of getting the full plus 20 emblems, even though I don't normally advocate for that. So yeah, all the way down to plus 20, I would say. Now that was the attack path. So the defense HP path. This is what the attack path would look like. It's pretty similar. We just flip a couple of the branches, and we pick up the nodes that have got the attack icon on them the whole way down. You'll note that I made a mistake there on that first branch. I should still be following the side that's got the HP as the secondary. And the reason for that is still the same. It is for the minion. So once again, going all the way down to plus 20 at the bottom. So yeah, that's the attack path as an alternative if you're wanting to emphasize his damage output. But like I said, I would be going that HP defense route to give him added survival. So yeah, his charge speed is titled Cryogenic Blaster. So that's the next part we're going to look at. And at level 10 skill and 49 charge speed, it will deal 175% damage to all enemies. It will reduce the charge of all enemies by 25%. And finally, it will apply a plus 64% attack buff to the caster for 3 turns. So a couple little bits in there. We'll start, as always, with the damage component. It's listed first. It's the thing that most people like to compare. So damage is easy to calculate, but it's got a lot of variability to it, coming from things like RNG and all of those other goodies that happen. So to remove a lot of the variability, I compare heroes based on their attack stat, which is ultimately analogous to their damage output anyway. So their attack power. So the attack power is just a hero's attack stat, 764, multiplied by the percentage in their skill, 175%. And in the case of Frostbite, we can see that his base attack power per tile comes out at 121 attack power per tile per enemy. Now, if he's hitting 5 enemies, he obviously gets 5 instances of that. So it comes out as being a total attack power per tile of 600. So quite a substantial amount of damage if he's managing to hit everyone in terms of the attack power. That then runs through the damage calc and it gets normalized against like the defense stat and then also with some RNG and all of that other fun goodness. But the end of the day, he comes out, we can see there, as number 3 of the purple AoE 5 damage dealers. It does drop off quite substantially when we start looking at all of the AoE 5 options. So he's in the top 30% of purple, but he's only 21 of the 45 total AoE 5 hitters in the game of the 5 stars. So it does drop off a lot. We see a lot of great ones in like your reds and yellows and blues. They've got some really, and green actually has got some really great ones, but purple is quite lacking in the AoE 5 hitters. Sarge is up there, but you know, the rest of them, you can see there is a big step change between Sarge at 172 and Delphine and Frostbite in the 120s there. And then it drops off further when you get down to like Barbie and Vigo and Ramhorn down in the 90s. So at the moment, the cutoff for a top 10 of all of the AoE 5s is about 145 APBT. So yeah, 121 is not quite in that ballpark. So, but yeah, anyway, of the purple options, you know, he's a good option. He's a good damage dealer in purple. The thing that really lets him down is that percentage. He's got an elevated attack stat. You know, you can see he's up there. He's actually got the highest attack stat of the purple AoE 5 hitters there. But 175% is a full 8th less than, you know, what Sarge and Delphine are giving off. So if he was able to be doing that 200%, then he'd probably quite easily be in that top 20%, that top 10 mark, but he's just not. Now, in saying that, you can see I've added in another line there for Frostbite, which is showing the effect of his attack buff. So we can see that his attack stat has gone from 764 up to 1252, and that's made a marked improvement on his APPT as well, coming out at 199 per enemy. So that's when he is recasting while under the 64% attack buff we see there. So quite a substantial damage improvement, but we'll get into that in a little more detail further on in the review. So moving on from the damage, the next part of his skill that's listed there is the charge cut. So it reduces the charge of all enemies by 25%. So charge control is something that I say so often is being a incredible effect. It's probably one of the best effects that you can have on a hero's skill, because it grants them so much use, both in as part of a strong color stack, or as an off-color hero as part of a minor stack, or even just a single hero. It really allows you to control a battlefield and to manipulate the enemy heroes so that their special skills aren't necessarily triggering at all in many cases, but allows you breathing space as well to continue manipulating the board as you see fit. Now, charge cut is one such mode of charge control. There's a number. You've got charge cut, charge slow, charge block, insanity, silence. These are all modes of charge control. Charge cut works by literally taking the percentage of their, that they're charged at the start, and then minusing off the listed percentage. So, for example, if a hero started on 66%, fire Frostbite, they go down to 41%, right? It takes 66 minus 25 equals 41%. And that's how it works. So there aren't actually a huge number of AoE charge cutters in the game, right? Across 4 and 5 star, there are only 15. You know, that's across all the rarities, 4, 5, and 3 star. There's only 15 AoE charge cutters. Of them, only 2 are AoE 5. They are Frostbite and Groll. That's it. The only other one that kind of falls into that category is Zodiac, who's a multi-hitter, but Frostbite and Groll are the only 2 that are going to hit all enemies with a charge cut when they fire their skill. So it's a very potent skill, and it's very, very limited in the number of options that you've got to do that. Frostbite, if we have a little bit more of a look at that charge control, that charge cut, he comes out at a maximum charge cut of 125%, so that's when you get the 5 instances of 25%. It's very high. It's actually really, really high. We see a common number being about 60%, so this is like the AoE 3s doing 20%, like Dragon Fist or Aiko. Zodiac does 60%, so he does 6 instances of minus 10%. There's some that are elevated, so you've got Lumi and Torrent that do 3 instances of 35%, so 105%. Groll, who's the other AoE 5, he does 5 instances of 15%, so 75%. So none of them actually reach the threshold that Frostbite does, or the potential rather, that Frostbite has. In saying this as well, I will note that as enemy heroes die, you do lose a lot of that efficacy as well. Frostbite less so, because he's all enemies as opposed to targeting nearby. So if we look at Dragon Fist, when the tank's gone, the most number of enemies that Dragon Fist can target is 2. It's either the 2 on the left or the 2 on the right, because the tank has broken the chain, so to speak. So he goes from doing 3x20, which is 60%, to 2x20, which is 40%. Frostbite, in that same situation, he goes from 5x25 or 100%, 125% down to 4x25, which is 100%. So he loses off less badly than a target nearby. The only hero that will always do out all of their charge control is Zodiac, and that's because he's a multi-hitter, right? So the final thing that I want to say before I sort of sum up charge control being awesome, is that you can block charge cut in 2 ways. So number 1 is obviously the support talent. This has the ability to resist charge cutting effects, right? You've probably all seen it by now. It happens more often than I feel it should, but it happens fairly often. The other mode is through Sarge or Vasquez. They actually create a buff which prevents charge control effects, and charge cut is one of those effects which is blocked. So fairly niche the ways to block the effect. It's not really anything you can control, or what most people would consider being able to control. So yeah, very, very useful effect as a whole, particularly with Frostbite being one of only 2 AoE 5 charge cutters in the game. So very, very, very useful effect. And I think this is probably, for me, the high point of his special skill. This is what I see him being predominantly a charge control hero, right? I don't see him as being a damage dealer with charge control. I see him as being a charge control hero, first and foremost, with damage as well. So yeah. Moving on from that, because I could be there all night, the final part of his skill is the attack buff. So the caster gains plus 64% attack for 3 turns. So off the bat, percentage based, really great, right? It means it's going to scale with weapons, it'll scale as he levels, it's going to scale when we start putting emblems on him. All of those things will make his final percentage of his attack higher and higher and higher. 64% itself, very high as well, right? Typically we see 44% or thereabouts as being the normal percentage-based buff. There is one other hero, which is Amethyst. It is also 64%, but normally for an attack buff like this, percentage base, it's down in the 40s, if not lower. You can get higher, right, on the Berserk style heroes, so where it starts off 46% and then increases further as they get hit. So this is heroes like Clara, Sapphire, or Nomad as a couple of examples. But other than them, 64% is as good an attack buff as you can get. I did highlight a lot earlier how much of an improvement 64% is on his attack power per tile, but to put it into more perspective, when you run it through all of the damage calculations, it comes out as being a 95% increase in the damage, or roughly, or just under, double the damage output, if you can fire his skill again within those 3 turns. So all you have to do is get the 9 or 11 tiles, depending on how well he's charge broken, within the next 2 tile movements. And I know it says 3 turns there, but you only get 2 tile movements, because by the time you make the 3rd tile movement and you've charged his skill, the effect is gone because it ends after the tile movement, so you don't get a chance to fire his skill. Test it in battle, trust me, it's only 2 tile movements if you're wanting to fire his skill again. So yeah, overall, Frostbite is, I think, going to be a very, very good supporting hero. I don't see him necessarily being an amazing out-and-out hero that will, carry an entire team. He's not that kind of hero. He's not the hero that's going to fire his skill and deal out enough damage to basically one-shot 5 enemies. That's not Frostbite. He is, however, an incredibly useful supporting role hero. If you've watched my war videos, you will see that I always try to bring along off-color charge control, and if I can also sneak it in, try and bring along strong color charge control as well. The reason I try to have both, particularly off-color, is that it gives me an out. If I'm not getting my strong colored tiles to do damage, I have an option to still try to control the battle by using one of my off-color heroes to do that charge control. I see Frostbite being able to do that incredibly well, right? He's the only hero that can do AoE 5 charge control other than Groll, right? There's just no other options. Everyone else is AoE 3 or target only. So yeah, I see that really being what Frostbite is going to do best. His damage, it's not fantastic on its own. Yes, it's high for purple, but it drops off compared to a lot of the other options. If you can get that attack buff and go again, then that will work out really well, because you're going to get that big prop up in his damage output. But like I mentioned, you do have to charge his skill again within 2 tile movements, which means you need to get 9, 10, or 11, depending on what his charge break is, tiles, or ghosted tiles also count as double, but you need to get that many tiles within the next 2 tile movements. So that could be quite difficult. So ultimately, the charge cut is what I see him being what him bringing most to the table. And then also having AoE 5 damage. So yeah, pretty good hero, I think. So for his grading, I'm going to give him a B+ for his war and raid attacks. I ummed and ahed a little bit about this. I think he probably could be an A-, but I'm going to go conservative and go with the B+ at this point in time, and potentially bump him up later on if I review some of these videos. For the war machines, I'm going to give him a B-. I don't see him being a huge war machine hero. He's got a slightly inflated attack stat, but there's nothing in his skill which really would be constituted or considered as a war machine specialist or a war machine improving hero. The charge cut, nice. The attack buff, nice, but it's self only. So yeah, B- for war machines. Eventing, I'm going to give him a B grade. I do think AoE 5 is better than snipers. Still not hugely great, but the charge cut also works kind of okay, I guess, to helping you complete events faster, I guess. But yeah, B grade for the eventing. On the war and raid defense side of things, I'm going to give him a B grade here as well. I would say flank is his best position. It allows him to be a little bit sheltered while still charging his special skill. I don't think his stats really align towards being a tank, as well as the fact that he's purple, which means that there is a natural counter to any purple tank, which is readily available in 8-bit. 8-bit just will crush purple tanks until there's one that is just insanely strong. So flank position, I think, is where he's going to be best suited. On the tournaments, so Bloody Battle up front, so no healing, doesn't really affect him, so I'm going to keep him at a B+ for attack and a B- for Bloody Battle defense. On the buff booster side of things, he does create a buff for himself, but that's about it. So I'm going to keep him at a B+ for buff booster attack and a B grade for buff booster defense. And then finally, on the charge tournament, he does get a substantial speed improvement. He goes from 49 speed up to 65, as well as the fact that he has got charge control. And charge control is insanely useful in charge tournaments where special skills will run the show. So I'm going to give him an A+ for charge tournament attack and a B+ for charge tournament defense. So overall, that comes out as being a B+ for Frostbite's overall attack grade and a B for his overall defense grade. And that concludes the content for this review of Frostbite. As always, these are just my personal thoughts and opinions on these heroes. I do love hearing your thoughts and commentary on them, so please do jump down to the comment section and leave me a note. I try to read and respond as much as possible. If you found this video to be good, useful, helpful, feel free to like it, subscribe to the channel, have a look around. There's plenty of other stuff on my channel that may or may not be useful to you, so feel free to check that stuff out as well. Thank you once again for tuning in and joining me. I do hope I will see you again soon in another vid, but until then, good luck, stay safe, and happy gaming. Cheers, bye!